So we were playing Pathfinder, rebooting a previous game with some new PCs at about level 6. We have a fire wizard, rogue, two-hand fighter, life cleric, and a gunslinger. Gunslinger ended up being the big problem. He started the game with a created magic item that lets him use the blink spell 3 times a day. In Pathfinder, blink makes you flicker back and forth between the material and ethereal plane for the duration. This, understandably, does a ton of stuff. It makes all physical attacks have a flat 50% chance to miss, makes all of your attacks have a 20% chance to miss, lets you move through solid objects that are less than 5 feet thick, reduces damage you take from area effect damage. Overall, it's a pretty strong spell. This immediately starts causing problems. First fight was against a marauding pack of gnolls on their way to the real objective. From the get-go, he's running into the middle of combat, blasting with both pistols, heedless of danger due to his blink item. The way he checks for it is he rolls a d10, says nothing, looks at it, and then informs me whether it missed because of blink. And wouldn't you know it, almost every single attack against him is consumed by the blink spell, but not a single one of his is. Imagine that. I ask him what system he's using, whether it's high or lows, or odds or evens, and what number he's using for his own attacks, etc. He says, highs, I missed. Lows, I miss. I tell him that's a little confusing and ask him to see his next attack roll. He rolls his eyes, but agrees. Next attack against him hits. He rolls immediately, picks it up before I can see, and tells me it's a miss. I remind him that I said to let me see his roll, and he informs me, you need to be quicker, just get the next one. Now, I'm a pretty permissive DM, but when stuff like that happens, the gloves come off. I told him to re-roll it, and from now on, any concealment, displacement, or any other mischance rolls that I don't see, don't count. I informed the rest of the party about this, and they agree. All except for Gunslinger. He argues that combat already takes long enough and that he feels targeted, blah blah blah. I told him that the only other option is I roll everyone's mischances myself, and he puts himself on mute. I have him re-roll the blink chance. It comes up a 2, and he says, see, the thing missed me. I looked at him, almost glaring. Dude, what did you say to me before? And how does your system work? He rolls his eyes again and says, highs, I miss, lows, I missed. I inform him that that is wrong, and I confer with the other players who confirm what they heard. He literally just said the opposite of what he said a few seconds ago. He immediately goes on the offensive. You're all ganging up on me. This isn't fair. I told him that from now on, any attack on him that scores low misses. Any attack he makes that checks low also misses. That way, we're going to be consistent and easy. No more of this shifting goalposts craziness. He argues for a second, but I move on. Sometimes, as a GM, you just have to put your foot down and move on. Right near the end of the fight, someone shoots an arrow at him, and he throws his D10. It comes up 0, and he says, missed. Nice try. I say to him, dude, that hits. What in the world's wrong with you? He looks at me with this kind of tired anger. You said lows miss. That's a 0. That's a low. Duh. No, that's a D10. 0 on a D10 is a 10, as in 1 more than 9, as in high. Are you serious right now? He tries to appeal to the rest of the group to back him up, but that's not happening. Although he is able to waste 10 minutes of my life arguing that 10 is less than 5. So that's a thing. So at this point, I'm super done with this. We just started and I already have cheating, players challenging my call, and this guy trying to gaslight me. And we're maybe only 2 hours in. I don't want to ban him for various out-of-game reasons, but I need to do something about this. So I decide to alter the venture to make things a little bit more interesting. Their adventure was to go and look into a village that had to be abandoned due to, what they were told, a bunch of ghosts. They talked to a few escaped villagers who spoke of monsters appearing out of thin air and attacking them. They got a few pair of goggles that would let them see immaterial things from a local witch. Then they set off to look into it. They get into town and start poking around. They make some perception checks and look around and find some odd husks. One of them finds a locked bathroom with a dead guy in it and no window that anyone could have attacked from. They look around with the goggles, see no ghosts, and assume the spirits must come out at night. They rest until nightfall and follow after some movement that they see in the square. As they approach, something monstrous attacks the fire wizard. They all roll initiative. Gunslinger pops his item, and then it all comes together. Originally, I was planning on playing the venture straight, just having a bunch of ghosts infesting the village that the PCs had to clear out. I replaced those ghosts with spiders, specifically a mating pair of phase spiders, an ambush predator that weaves the smoky stuff of the ethereal plane into tangled nets and jaunt through the planes to attack their prey. Sort of like a trapdoor spider, except instead of springing out of an obscure hole in the ground, they pop out of thin air, and are the size of a horse. So the party is getting attacked by a couple of these things, shifting in and out of the ethereal plane. Fire Wizard is hitting them with magic missile. Two-Hand Fighter and Rogue are holding actions and landing strong attacks on the things when they shift back in to attack. And Life Cleric is healing up anyone who gets ambushed. As for the Gunslinger, well, the Gunslinger is dying. Remember how Blink works? It causes a target to bounce back and forth between the material and ethereal plane. The ethereal plane is where these things live, and that's where their young are. The baby spiders are smaller, but still the size of a large dog. And since he's the only one in the ethereal plane, he's the only one they can attack. By round 2, Gunslinger is being mobbed by a horde of ravenous spiderlings, and nobody can help him. He rips off the item that lets him blink, but I tell him that the item just lets him cast the spell, not that the item is the source of the ongoing effect. He starts demanding that Fire Wizard or Life Cleric cast Dispel Magic on him, but they're too busy fighting the mature spiders. They keep attacking him for the whole fight, 8 of these things constantly surrounding him, around 4 hitting every round on the account of the blink spell still halting 50% of their attacks. I have a wonderful time describing Gunslinger popping in and out around the battlefield, gradually growing more and more haggard as the tiny spiders are ripping him to pieces. One time, a critical making one of them hang off his face while he shifts back into the material plane. After a few rounds, he dies, and I have great fun describing his flickering body gradually losing mass as the baby spiders start eating him, and I actually get compliments on how evocative I managed to make it. Gunslinger's player sits there fuming with rage for a good portion of the fight, until he rather abruptly grabs his stuff and leaves, taking Life Cleric with him because they rode together. I ask Life Cleric's player if I could control his character for the rest of the fight, and Gunslinger's player answers no. I get a text about 10 minutes after they leave from Life Cleric's player that tells me that I can, and the fight finishes out with the players victorious. We finish out the session with the remaining players actually using Gunslinger's magic item on the entire party over a few rounds so they can clear out the baby spiders and burn their nest. Everyone says it was a fun adventure, and we go home. Later that week, I get a call from Gunslinger's player, and he demands that I retcon his death because he feels he was targeted unfairly. This is absolutely true, of course, but I tell him I will do no such thing. He quits, and the game is better for it. My favorite part about this story is that the spiders hitting the village ended up being an interesting twist that I managed to foreshadow effectively despite pulling it out of my butt literally minutes before they encountered it. This still gets talked about sometimes, and it was conceived entirely out of punitive bitterness. It's one thing to cheat by having a broken item. It's another to hide your dice rolls. As entertaining as things turned out, I I believe the GM should have just put his foot down at the beginning and said no to the item to shut things down quick. But I do applaud the creative solution of turning a broken power into a huge weakness. What do you all think?